Sounds like they really could. Yeah.
That's the thing about referrals and building relationships, period. Not just romantic ones, but having business relationships where you refer and you trust each other. That's what makes the world go around.
I love all that networking stuff. It's so much fun for me.
Yeah, same here.
But we're all about connecting people romantically here, right?
Indeed we are. Yes, we are.
This is the new streamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast #1 internet singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Also, hi, Barry. Cece sent, I want to tell you this. Cece sent me a text about we're at her top show.
What? We
I
are?
know. I
Exciting.
said, I want to see statistics. She said she was just looking at the statistics and we were on the top.
I love it.
I shouldn't be so surprised because we're so fabulous.
Awesome.
So today we're going to talk about if you have spiritual differences and what to do about that. Is it an automatic red flag? Is it a yellow? Is it a pink? Is it a green? Is it a nothing? Because it could be everywhere on that scale, I would think.
Indeed, it can. Yes.
Yeah. So the thing that I tell people is on a scale of 1 to 10, when you're thinking about what you have to have, I have to have somebody that's really nice. Barry has to have somebody with an active passport. I mean, there's so many other things we have to have, but
More than
off
just
the
that.
top of my head,
Right.
there's an inner growth. We both want somebody who's done some inner work.
Mm-hmm.
So if religion, and I have to tell you, I coach a lot of people that religion is very high. I mean, it's in the top 3, sometimes one of the top.
Mm-hmm.
Very important to them. They read the Bible every day. They're part of a Bible study. They go to church at least once a week, if not more. And they're attached to a very specific religion, Jewish or Catholic or Protestant or Methodist, or some of them just are called Christian or Buddhist. I mean, there's so many organized religions. And then there's some that are more esoteric and a little more, those are the ones often that call themselves more spiritual. So decide how important is it to you in your life? How much time and energy, how much a commitment do you spend a week or a month with it? And then the second question is, how much do you need your partner to participate? A little, a medium, a lot? Because that's where you need to start your conversation for sure, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, because the thing is, frankly, there's so much that we forget about. It seems like when we're dating, it's like, we talked about this before in other past conversations about being based on their looks or their bank accounts or what food they eat. But we ignore sometimes perhaps the most esoteric, but yet the most important thing, which is what is their spiritual, religious belief system? Does it complement yours, or does it completely blow yours out of the water? It's like so what you said at the beginning is so clear about the different levels of what flag that is, red flag, green flag, whatever it is. And speaking personally, I was born and raised Jewish, and I've been on a spiritual path now for almost 40 years. So the fundamentalist Christian values do not fit my way of being. So if somebody has that as their primary focus, it is basically an automatic no for me, because there's like reading the Bible every day. No, it doesn't fit me. So I know for myself. And the thing is, it's not right about them. It's about me being honest with myself. And so I think for anybody who's in the conversation and listen to us, you got to find what's true for you and what's important to you. And for some people, yes, having somebody walk around with a Bible under their arm is absolutely priority for them. For other people, it's the Quran, or somebody else, it might be the Kabbalah, or it could be, it's like we all have a particular, I was going to say bent, that's not the right word to use, have nuances of what we prefer to our religious viewpoints. I mean, the way that one of my teachers puts it, which I love, is there are many paths, one destination. So in a sense, the fact that anybody that you're meeting who has a similar destination point as you is great, but the path they take may not be like yours. That may or may not fit you. So you're also going to know how strict are you, like you're saying before. Do you want to participate in what you do? Does it matter that much if their vehicle to get to that same destination is exactly the same as yours or similar to yours, or does it make a difference? That's part of the conversation too.
And I've coached clients that were pretty committed to the religion they were part of. And they were really okay about dating people that weren't, as long as the people they were dating weren't. And
Right.
so I had one couple that one of them was Buddhist and one of them was Methodist. It's been a long
Hmm.
time, but I think that's what it was. And they had so much fun discussing, because there wasn't any, for them, that didn't feel like there was big conflicts about it.
Ah,
There were some
differences.
things that, yeah, there were some places where they found, gosh, we really do kind of match. And then, wow, they loved going to each other's services and they loved learning about it. And I think because neither one of them had a big, this is the only right way. It was
Right.
right for them, but some people think, well, if it's not right for the world, then it's wrong. It was so fascinating to watch them go through this journey, because there were, certainly other things that were on their list they had to talk about. But certainly I thought, I have two things I wanted to bring up with this, that I've had this personal experience where they worked it out and they were fine. And it was this, and they were older, so there wasn't, what are we going to baptize or not, or any of that, because that would be hard if you're younger, thinking about kids, because that can be
Absolutely.
really a little confusing for kids. But
Hmm.
they enjoyed the flow.
Hmm.
They liked, oh, we like both holidays and we like
Well,
both
that's one of the benefits.
yeah, you could get a whole bunch of holidays if you have a couple.
Indeed.
And they loved the camaraderie, because both of them were very family and connecting, and they liked going to each other's groups. And so what I want people to think about is, yes, it's my way or the highway, if that's how you feel. And
Hmm.
if you're not so strong about that, to be open to, let me find out what somebody else believes and see if it is okay enough. It stays
Right.
above that good enough line.
Yeah, and it is the same. It is true too, because a lot of times in religion, if you maybe get away from the dogma of each religion, but you get to the quality of each religion, you might find a lot of things in common ground. And the truth is, your Buddhist teachings have some things that overlap with Jewish teachings and spiritual teachings. So there are definitely places to find nuance and variation that can be fun to discuss and discover with each other, which is definitely great. Of course, the other one we talked about, which we'll get to, is atheism, where someone has no belief whatsoever. How does that fit with somebody who has a very firm belief?
Yeah.
Because you spend the whole time trying to convince each other of your rightness, because that's a whole challenge.
That's the thing. You need to decide how right for you and your world is
Hmm.
this on the scale.
Right.
I mean, it's not just you, it's the friends that you're close with, it's the people that you're having intimate conversations with, it's the person that you're going to sleep with. How important to you are you on the same wavelength? You need to be on the same wavelength. And it's fascinating to have those conversations with people, because you're like, oh, I thought I would just know. I thought they'd just know. Oh, no, it's important to first have a conversation with yourself, which
Hmm.
I do with my clients a lot, and then to have a conversation with the other person before you're involved. Oh, no, that's no fun. Oh, it's way less fun when you're all involved. And then it
Yeah.
turns out like, oh, we don't have this really important thing in common.
Right. And that's the thing. This dance is such an interesting part, because in a lot of ways we are speaking also about the red flag, green flag thing in other areas too. But it's one of the big ones.
Mm.
There are certain behaviors, preferences, proclivities that you have to discover as part of that red flag, green flag conversation, which we talked about before. But religion and spirituality is one of those big ones, because it's so key to people's lives for most people. And
Yeah.
so to have that way of looking at it from a lens of openness versus closed mindedness, because some people do that as well, where you can find common ground is a key part. And as I said for myself, it's like I definitely have aspects that I look at and go, that's definitely in the red flag column. But there are some in the green flag column, and some in the amber flag, where it's like, that could work. I'm not sure. We have to find out. And it is an interesting conversation, because there is such a wide spectrum of flavors. And so I guess the thing I want to say is that there ought not to be a specific automatic no that comes up when it comes to it. It's really about what will work and what may not work, and be okay and discover what it is. Because as I said, I said for myself, there are certain no's I definitely know about, and I've gotten to that point internally with my own work, because as you said as well, I know myself, I know what my belief system is, I know what lines up for me, and I know where I'm open and where I'm choosing not to be open. And I said that intentionally, choosing not to be open,
Yeah.
because it doesn't fit me. And primary relationship, because there are friends I have who are atheists. I have friends I have who are very devout Christians and Buddhists and other
Mhm.
people too. But romantically, it's a different level of connection, different level of intimacy, different level of space you put somebody in, which is why, for me, friendship can be less critical around your religious beliefs, but intimate relationship has to be more refined.
And speaking of atheists and agnostics, I said, so I really started asking, so does that mean you believe in nothing? No, it didn't mean nothing. I thought it meant nothing. Because if you think God's the only thing Jesus is the only thing to believe in, and they don't, then they must believe in nothing. Well, it turns out they believe in all sorts of stuff. It still didn't fit me as a romantic person, but certainly was fascinating.
Yeah.
So I've mentioned this before, but I thought this is the perfect time for me to talk about my friends. They've been married for over 40 years, and I've known them for over 30 of them. And when I met them, and when they met each other, I don't remember which one, but one was an agnostic and one was an atheist. Perfectly content that way.
Yeah.
Then, 20 years into their marriage, he says, I really need to go back to my Christian Science roots. He'd been raised very devout Christian Science and had finally, when he was an adult, said, yeah, this is not for me, and went completely the other direction. But he said, I'm finding as I mature, there really is a place in me that's needing a religion. And I've really looked because that was not going to be my first choice. And it turns out that's really the only round peg that's going to fit in that round hole. And she's like, holy crap, we've been together all this time with this great even playing field. And now you want to play with the other team. What's wrong with this? So they really talked about it a lot. And they had a great foundation marriage. They been through lots of things, talked through lots of things. And finally, the conversation came down to, well, do you need me to participate? Do you need me to come or do or talk? No, I don't even need you to talk about it. I mean, if you ask me, I'll tell you, but I will get my fill there. I'm going to go on purpose. I've looked, I found the place I'm going to get my fill, and then I can come home and I won't need that from you. And so every Saturday he goes off to his church, and she said, I wondered, because, I had a good marriage. It got better because they both had this permission from each other. I just adore them. They got to a place where they went, yeah, you need this to be an even better husband and father, have at it. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to be an even better wife because I'm going to go, sure, fine. But I'll tell you, their journey was bumpy because it had to be, because it couldn't have been just couldn't you just do something little? No, you have to get really religious in this thing that's so lots of dogma.
That's the thing, and I would suggest that your friends are a rare breed in that sense, because there was such a sense of the relationship commitment was strong enough that it would handle the journey they were going on, even though it was bumpy and rocky along the way. But to get to the point where they discovered their relationship gets better because one of them chose something that added value to their relationship. And frankly, if your religious choices or spiritual choices tend to bring out more loving in you, more kindness, more compassion, more forgiveness, more service, more caring, more all these things, that's a good thing, frankly, to me. So, and yes, that thing about atheism and agnosticism, I went through both of those in my teens, so I know them well. Up in my bar mitzvah, I had my own spiritual crisis in my teens, so I had quite a lesson to go through. But the thing was, for me, is I had to really exhaust my uncertainty in those different areas to come to where I am now. And so I understand people's journeys are going to be what they want to choose. And for somebody who's been their choice has been the same all the way through their life, good luck to them. But that's not been my one. So finding the way where it fits together is such a key part, because frankly, having the opportunity to discover new things is a great thing. I mean, that's why I've been on this journey of personal growth for years too. So if I was closed off to new things, I'd be denying my own curiosity, my own desire, my own willing to grow. And having a chance to really be more expansive is part of it too. And at the same time, I know what works. So to be transparent, I guess I have this duality going inside of me, because I'm clear about how both of these things have validity. But again, where's the meeting point? Because the other part also, and this is talk about relationships always, is you have to find common ground with your partner on something. And if you don't find it in that religion / spirituality / atheism / God thing, then how does that work? Because for me, that is for me a priority, is spiritual philosophy, not so much about, practices or going to discipline and doing certain things. It's about a philosophy and a way of life that I live through. And so if they get to that from another point, I mean, I know people who are atheists who have the same level of care, service, compassion, caring, forgiveness, all those things that wasn't based in a spiritual teaching. So it matches. Mm-hmm. So it's so sometimes the label doesn't necessarily match the content, put it that way.
Yeah. The nuances.
Yeah.
Nuances. So what I tell people is, we talk, where it's one of the things to talk about: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. What is your spiritual practice? What's important to you? What do you do about it on a regular basis? What kind of things do you believe in? What kind of people do you like hanging out with? What kind of rituals do you include that are important to you? And then you just start out with that. And then what does your partner for you need to do too?
Right.
Do they need to do all the same things, some of the same things, none of the same things? And then once you've had that conversation with yourself, then you get to have the conversation with other people. Yep. And if you have a real specific thing that you're looking for, this religion, this belief, go hang out there. Mm-hmm. So funny when people come to me, I'm having really bad luck meeting them. Well, where are you going? Not there. Well, then you need to go there. Oh, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I know we have to laugh, but it's funny how people don't think. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you want to go buy really fresh produce, you go to a farmer's market.
Yep.
Don't complain that you're not finding the freshest stuff at the grocery store, because that's not their job. Their job is to get as fresh as they can, but it's been shipped in trucks across the country. In Southern California, we're surrounded by people that are growing stuff and pulling it out of the ground and bringing it to a farmer's market. So it could be a couple days old, but certainly not weeks. So don't complain. Go where, if you really want fresh stuff, go where they have fresh stuff. I use that analogy all the time because I'm like, why aren't you going where your people are?
We've talked about this months ago. We talked about, going out and being of service and doing things out in the world, like going to animal shelters or feeding the homeless, other things. If you do have a spiritual, religious preference and you're not spending time in that community and notice the other single people who are there as well, you're missing the boat. Yeah.
Because lots and lots of religions, religious belief places have so much opportunity for service.
Yeah.
Within their four walls, things that they do outside, community service. Oh my gosh, look around. And right now, I mean, volunteerism is so needed because there's so many people that aren't able to do some of the really basic things for themselves. And to be able to go gift that and find your people that are doing the same thing, even if just to make some friends to go have coffee with, period. But then maybe to find somebody, wow, we have all this in common. Maybe we should have actually dinner.
What a concept.
I know. I don't get it. I'm like, if there's something that you really are a big believer in or you love participating in, go there. Because they belong, like, I'm going to say it out loud. I've had a few people call me that belong to Saddleback Church and they go, there's no singles. I go, they have a singles group. They have a singles group. A really big singles group.
So
really
many.
Big.
Yeah, so many churches, so many spiritual centers that are bigger have quite a segment within the population who are singles. So if you don't find
you are not paying attention.
Exactly. You're not looking, then so it's on your head.
So we do that. We get caught up in our own lives and our own things that are happening in our lives, and we forget. We just do.
Right.
We're scoffing, but it is pretty funny because then they go, oh, yeah, I should check into that. Yeah. Hundreds. There's hundreds of members because there's thousands of members of the church.
That's why they pays the big bucks to coach them. So we remind them of the stuff they forgot to notice.
Doesn't it make us feel needed? I love feeling needed.
However, we're going to take a break in a second for commercial. We'll talk about more of this when we come back because there's a lot more to talk about this conversation about differences and alignment and what works. So we'll see you in a few minutes. We'll see you back in a couple of seconds.
Yes, and they'll stop making that noise, hopefully.
Yes.
we're back talking about spiritual differences,
Yes.
deliverances. That was pretty funny. What to do? What to do about that?
It's funny because the thing that came up for me earlier was about it's like you're trying to find if you're different spiritual values. Like, when you're having sex and you cry, "Oh God, which one are you talking to?"
Well, Gary brought up sex before Christine did.
Yeah, see, it happens once in a while.
I love it when that happens. I think that's so cool. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Anyway.
I think he has. Well, I think he's the one that gave us the opportunity to have orgasms. So let's say thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that installation. I think everybody should use it frequently.
Right. Yeah.
So the other thing that I thought I'd mention, because I think I've mentioned it once maybe on this, was I was baptized the religion Unity, and I loved going to church. It was God loves you. You have free will, you get to take credit for things that don't go good, that go well, and you get to take credit for things that aren't going so well. And it was how I was raised. It was how my mom thought. And I loved Sunday school, and I loved the woman that did the big church. That's how I called it when I was little, the big church service.
Yeah.
But then I became 30 and said,
You became
I need to go find. Well, I'd already, through my teenage years and then my 20s, I said, I can't just belong to the religion my parents did, because I know more than they do.
Right.
So I really did, all the way through my teenage years, all the way through my 20s. I really did attend every house of worship or way of worshiping. I mean, I even went to American Indian ceremonies. I wanted to see everything that was out there. I wanted to explore the buffet. And I found things I liked everywhere, but no place that I went, yeah. But I had great fun learning and saying, yeah, because the few that were really like, God hates you, or he can get really mad. I was like, these are not for me, because that wasn't how I was raised at all. So then my mom's friend was teaching these etiquette classes, and she had a chance at this big church in Huntington Beach that I'd never heard of. And they had a chance between their services, because they had 2 services, to do a sales pitch. So I came, and the service came out, and there's all these hundreds of people, and we talked to them, and now we have to hang around. So I went and sat in the back of the church, and in came this woman who reminded me of the big church preacher when I was a kid, tall and slender and beautiful white hair. And she walks up to the front, and I'm like, oh, I feel at home already. This is comfortable, because I didn't know what this church was. And then she says, I have to tell you, I'm really glad you're here, but I'd come and do this without you, because I'm having so much fun. And I went, she likes being here. That's a cool thing too. And she says, and I have to tell you, I had some counseling the other day by a police officer who explained to me I really shouldn't be rolling through that stop sign. And so I said, okay, yeah, I guess that was my choice. And that's how God feels. He gives you choices. You could have stopped, Peggy, but you did not. So we're going to have somebody counsel you about it. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting church. I need to learn about this church, because I'd never been here. So I go and I get their literature, and I'm reading about it, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to start going to their services. And I called my mom. I go, Mom, I think I found my church. And she goes, what is it? I said, the Church of Religious Science. She goes, that's the one you were baptized in. But I had to make my own decision. But that's what you do. So I love when I talk to people about, this is what I really believe, and this is why I believe. Tell me. I want to hear, because I need you to explain this to the person across the table from you, especially if they have a different belief. Tell me all about it. And sometimes they're like, I don't know. So go look, go find out. I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I want you to feel even better about it. But it's not just because somebody said so. It's not just because you were raised. Now that we're grown as adults, as I figured out, even though I went back to the same thing, I felt like I am now making my grown-ass adult decision. And it's still to this day, and I still love going to every other person's. I mean, I have so many friends that are in different religions, and they invite me to do all their stuff. They just give me the easy readings, because especially for the Jewish ones, I'm not very good with that part. Yeah, you have to make the less parts.
I remember that well.
Oh, it's such a challenge. And then lots of times she'll put it all in English, which I'm so grateful for.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't raised with it. I mean, I understand a lot of it, but I love learning, because part of what it does is it expands my knowledge about other things. And then it makes me go, yeah, I'm still really happy where I am. Because if somebody's going to come up and say, well, I believe this way, you can say, great, I can see it. Tell me what, oh yeah, it makes so much sense to me. It wouldn't make sense to me to believe that. This is how I believe. And I think that's how that couple that ended up being two different religions and were fine. They both so were enamored with, you're so into your thing and it's okay that I'm not. Let's just be excited about each other's. But that doesn't happen very often, huh?
Well, the thing, no,
Yeah,
definitely.
if it could happen in the political arena. I just have to
Don't
say.
we won't go there. No, but the thing for me also is if your religion or spiritual belief you study with excludes other people, is that going to work for you or not? I'm grateful because the fact the teaching I follow in spiritual belief for many years comes from religious science as well, though we outgrew that and become a different philosophy.
Yeah.
But the thing I love about it is it doesn't put walls up; it takes walls down.
Yeah.
And so for me, being the spiritual teaching that is inclusive and expansive, kind of like open it around the sides and at the top sort of thing, allows for more ability to connect to other people. And so in my Jewish roots, I definitely saw that we were sort of the meek, the mild, and the lamb to the slaughter sort of thing, which is what we were raised, talked about in the Bible. And so I never felt necessarily confident because I was in mostly a Christian environment. And so I was like this little pocket of Judaism amongst everything else. And so it was always an interesting process. But being in the spiritual community for the last 30 plus years, my grounding and understanding that everything I know is additive to everything else out there makes it much easier. And the thing is, as you were saying, is what do you believe in that you can stand on, not as a pulpit, but as an ownership? What is it your religious teaching gives you that you value, that you come in grace with? I'm very passionate about the healing work I do with my clients. A lot of times it includes things like forgiveness. And some teachings make forgiveness only available to God, not to you. That to me doesn't work. For you it might, but it doesn't work for me. So recognizing that what your studies, what teaching you're following, or what teacher you're following truly does fulfill your spiritual needs, so you can be that way in your life. And then when you meet somebody else, whether you're the same or different, you both have a depth and ownership of your own spiritual values that makes you who you are as whole and loving and attractive. Because truth be also, your spiritual religious beliefs add to your attractiveness to other people as well. So hopefully it's additive to your life, not subtractive.
Boy, that's so true, because whatever you're doing in your life, if it continues to help you feel more whole as a human being, more enough as a human being, more solidified with being okay as a human being, because boy, the lack of self-confidence in the world is so rampant.
Indeed.
And so if this is one of the ways, which is how it can turn cultish, which is really scary, because that's what happens when you do have the lack of self-confidence. Then you're going to just believe what somebody else says without having a conversation about it, without really listening to your inner voice. Is this really for me? But if you already know and you've gotten to the place where you're really solid with it, and then you can have a conversation with somebody else who's solid with whatever theirs is. I mean, I've had the most fascinating conversation with people who we don't have the same belief. If we're both really open to saying, it's okay that you don't believe like me.
Right.
That's the challenge. But if you can say, oh, it's okay. It's okay. I can be okay with being with you, having this conversation. And then how close can I be with you if our conversations are going to be different? And so I have lots of friendships like that have been kind of fascinating. I mean, lots of friendships, which I feel really lucky that I have, because it's sort of like, how does the other side or the other people, and I mean that in the most loving, inclusive way, because could I feel inclusive if I didn't appreciate how somebody so different than me believed? Yeah. It's fascinating to keep doing that in my life.
It is the opportunity, and this is part of the fun, is to learn something else about something new about somebody else. And so when you are dating someone who's of a different persuasion than you are, can you be curious about it? Can you be intrigued by it? Can you be open to learning about it versus judging it exclusively right from the beginning? Because if you are willing to expand, you never know who you might meet and what values you might get. And it may not be that they become a relationship partner, but they become, like you were saying, and so I've been saying too, you have friendships that are different spiritual persuasion, different religious beliefs, that are still friends of yours. It doesn't mean you have to be romantic with them. And so it is allowing that difference to be included in the friendship.
And it helps me even more solidify, looking at this other perspective and its other point of view makes me even more clear this is how I believe.
Hmm.
That's been really helpful too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about my friends one more time because it's such a funny part of the story.
Of course.
So here they are, agnostic and atheist, and then one of them goes to Christian Science, and then their darling daughter discovers missionary work. And she is so religious now. She is so religious. And boy, my friend and I had a lot because she's the one that's still atheist, I think. Oh, how can I do this? How can I do this? I said, is it really good for her? Yeah. Is she making anybody else? No. I think it's okay. Then, so they go to Africa. She's a vet, so she teaches them how to keep their animals alive because that's their livelihood. And they get to preach and leave Bibles. Then she meets a guy that's just as religious. And she's like, and then they got engaged. And that's the wedding that I went to last August when it was 109 outside. And I had my friend kept saying, you have to have a conversation with me. I said, you are not allowed to roll your eyes once during the ceremony because you're going to be in the front row and people are going to be looking at you because this was the ceremony. They all go, praise. And there's lots of singing. And I'm watching my friend and she's like, I said, oh, Maggie, you came into this life to have lots of tests.
Indeed.
And I have to tell you, their year anniversary is next week, and they're so happy. They're so darn happy. And her mom's going, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Because what was so cool is she says, Taylor wanted me to go to church with her twice. So I went twice. And I said, so what'd you think? She goes, it was okay. It wasn't horrible. But it's all the holy, she could never go all the time because it's not her. And Taylor gets that.
That's the thing. You got to be honest with yourself on what's real and what's aligned. And when it's family, that's an interesting paradigm. It definitely makes things a little different. So that was a great story. Thank you for sharing that.
It's such a test on what have you, because this is what I keep saying, be really clear about what you believe because you never know what kind of test you're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
I know. These two extremes happened to her and her immediate family.
Well, just to speak on some of the family history stuff and reflecting back, as people who listen to the show know, I've never been married. My brother has been married twice. The first marriage, though, again, from my family, he's raised Jewish, same as my was by my parents, he was 31 at the time when he fell in love with this woman who was Church of England. And from England, that Church of England was set up by the king originally. It was an old religion from England, kind of Christian adjacent. So I'm going to get married. And what I watched in my family was this choosing sides, where some members of the family were like, great, let's go and check it out. Some parts of my family, including one of my uncles and I think my dad as well, said, if you're not getting married to a Jewish girl, you can't get married in a temple, in a synagogue. And I remember saying to my dad, it's like, he'd get married at a laundromat for all I care. I'm going to go. I was so adamant about it because I was on my spiritual path at this point. And watching the family go through its own machinations of structural, and it's this thing I'm going to get to, is in that experience, I believe, it wasn't about true belief. It was about structure. They were in the structure of the faith that requires certain things, and they weren't allowing any flexibility. So that's one of my pet peeves about not being inclusive. And so they end up getting married at a church, which really raised the hackles of some of my family members. But I remember going, and it was a beautiful ceremony, and they did throw a couple of Jewish things in as well. But it was an interesting thing to watch the dynamic of my own family. And having been, again, on the spiritual path for many years, it was gratifying in a way to see that eventually they did show up, they did come together. There was nobody saying, well, I'm not going to go, period. It was just like they wanted to voice their upset and then they would get over it, sort of thing, which they did. And so it happened. But the thing I also is noticing is looking back at recent times, there are so many marriages I've seen, friends connected, none of my clients got married that way, but definitely friends and people I know who got married to somebody of a different faith or a different upbringing, different culture, where they combined the two when they got married. Mm-hmm. And so in a way, what they did was they chose to bring their differences into unity in the union of their marriage, which is such a beautiful way of doing things. Yeah. And so one of the things we talked about earlier from bringing back in again is about how firmly you attach to being only one way. And can you be open to the possibility of expanding this, of having two different possibilities together. Because the other thing as well, if you have more than one religion in the family, that can be two it's like an additional skill set, additional language, an additional set of holidays, as we said, things you can bring together. So it isn't that you must be one way or the other. It's about what really works for you. And as you said as well, to really own what is true for you and what works for you, and then not be against other people, but just know that's not for you. It's healthy. So you got to, again, navigate your way through this path when you're looking to date, when you're looking to be in a relationship, and discover for yourself what is fundamentally your true nature and where it fits into your spiritual religious path, if you have one.
Well, yeah. So as we always say, it has to start with us.
Yes.
Who are you? What's important to you? Where are you on the scale of importance of each of these subjects, specifically religion today? And then how important to you is the other person? Match?
Yeah.
Or is different? Where's the gray area? If there isn't, be really clear about there isn't. Yeah, when I had my event production company, and then for 25 years, and a third of my business was weddings, I did a few where people blended stuff. It was kind of fascinating. They really wanted to. So I had one where there was a rabbi and the priest, the kind that have left the Catholic Church and gotten married, but they do a Catholic-ish ceremony. It just wasn't recognized by Rome. But those were kind of fun because they included all the really cool stuff of both sides.
Yeah.
There's lots of pageantry.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, it's almost like, I'm going to be callous saying it this way, but it's like sometimes when you're married, you want to have all the embellishments and the decoration and all the pageantry. So it may be worth having the diversity just for that reason alone. Not saying you should do it for that reason, but one of the side effects, one of the benefits is having that expansive and more pageantry-based things, which can be so much fun. Again, it's the reason you should get married that way. But however, one of the benefits.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it really could be. And that would be such an interesting conversation, because we did have those conversations about the seriousness of how they felt about their religion and the more soft way they could include the other persons. Because both people felt very committed to their religion, and then they really wanted to find this soft place in the middle. And it was beautiful to watch. It really was. And it was fun because when you talked about how your families they like try to work it out, we had lots of conversations ahead of time that this is what it's going to look like. This is what's going to happen. We don't have anybody storming out of the room because they were surprised. Don't come if it's going to bother you. Just come to the party after. And some were just tolerant, and some were kind of curious, and some were like, wow, that was real. I didn't realize. And because especially with Jewish and Catholic, I mean, it all kind of started in the same place with the same sort of idea a long time ago. And so they brought a lot of that out because they both, the priest and the rabbi, they know this. And so they made a point of like this kind of tag team thing, which was really lovely. And it was interesting. Of course, there were some people that on both sides that knew both sides, but there were lots of people who didn't, like the significant other people. And I was like, oh, they're opening up some minds. And even if you don't change, you're at least exposed to, wow, I didn't know that. Because that's the hard thing. I think, you talk so much about traveling that you get an idea about what people are like in other areas. You have no idea till you go there. You have no idea what people in other countries are really doing and saying and being like. And especially if you leave the real touristy areas, which was always really important to me, and really talk to people that live there. It's fascinating. I mean, there's so many things you're like, oh, we have that in common. And then, wow, you do these things different in where you live. And I think finding out different religions, I'm going to say the political thing again, even though it's so hard right now. If you just can listen a little when you're dating somebody, that it might be, yeah, I still couldn't do that, but I sure see why you thought this out. You just didn't hear it on the news, or you just didn't get it when you religious beliefs when you were a kid. You've really looked at it and said, yeah, this really fits me, and this is why. I've loved those conversations. I thrive on those kind of conversations.
Well, that's the thing also, is some people's religious allegiance has they've never actually looked at it and said, is this really true for me? Because they were raised with it. And like you're saying, and so that's a sticking thing too, is when you get into a new relationship, again, not using automatic definition, saying, well, this is my belief and it's not going to fit unless it is. Is your belief accurate? Is that really what's true for you now? Like we both said, it was like our upbringing didn't match where we came to. Ultimately, we changed it, follow our own path to our own spiritual choices. And if you've just like, it's become a crutch that you lean on, or just an old way of being, it's just part of who you are without any conscious thought. And you show up at church and there's sort of like all the things going on. You meet somebody outside. Are you so dogmatic about what you don't really necessarily care about to say no to that person? Or are you willing to entertain the possibility of having a conversation with them and discover where your true allegiances lie? Not saying that religion can be given up because of this person you met, but don't necessarily make it one or the other, black and white.
Yeah. I really am. You and I both talk about how I want to know why you believe what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to fight with me about it.
Right.
I'm not looking for an argument. I might not agree with you, but I'd really like to understand why, especially if it's different than me. I want to hear the evidence. I want to hear the thought behind it, because I generally, not always, but generally, have thought about what I'm saying. I've really researched it. And if somebody comes up with a different idea, I'm like, I hadn't thought about that. Let me turn that around and see, does it adjust my thinking? Do I solidify my thinking? Does it completely change my thinking? I mean,
Right.
I want to hear your thoughts so that I can go, yeah, no, I would never believe that, but I appreciate you telling me. And I will be happy to fight for you to believe that, but just don't fight for me to believe it too. That's where the rub happens. And that happens a lot in religion.
It is, unfortunately, and that's one of the things that makes it clear that sometimes you want to walk away, the must stay, because there's such a militancy about that choice that isn't going to work. And that's one of the things about religion, is that it can become such a stick in the relationship, which is being used to berate the other person with. So what we're talking about here really is about knowing what's true for you and knowing what's really true for you, not just what you just say, put lip service to, and what's true for the other person. And do they fit together in some way? Because ultimately, also with religion and with spirituality, is we each can have our own particular flavor, aspects, and thoughts about things, because we don't conform automatically like robots or automatons in different beliefs. We have our own pieces of that. So there's going to be a possibility of having an integration between the two of you. We can fit together some way.
Huh.
So, well, that's what I'm proposing and hoping for. Yes.
You and I will hold the belief that people have this ability, and then we'll just keep coaching them to see if they'll really step up.
Absolutely.
And we'll keep being examples.
Do the best we can.
Yes. So if that sounds like an intriguing conversation to you while you're watching or listening, you can talk to Barry or I about that, because as you heard, we've certainly been on our own journey and thought this out really well, and continuing to think about it, and certainly have conversations with our clients about it all the time to help you figure out how to even have this conversation, because lots of people are really nervous about having this conversation. When I go, you're going to talk about your religion, really? Yep. But we can make it very safe, very safe.
Yes, indeed.
So if you'd like to talk to me, the best way to get a hold of me is through my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. And you scroll down where it says What's Holding You Back from Love questionnaire, and click on that, and you can have a complimentary conversation with me. You'll just answer 10 brief questions that'll sort of solidify where you are and where you'd like to go. And then you'll have access to my calendar to make your appointment. You can also join my email list on that same web page, and you'll get repeats from our podcast and updates on what I'm doing in my life. And if you scroll to the bottom of that first page, you'll see all my social media icons, and you can click on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram.
That's it. That's the one.
And then you can also send me a personal email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And Barry, how would people get a hold of you?
Well, thank you for asking.
My pleasure.
Yes, indeed. So I also have a website and an email and a few other things too. So my website is my name, which is barryselby.com. My name is Barry Selby, but my website is barryselby.com, just to clarify the difference, because I always said that, like, On my website, on the homepage, is a link to get a discovery session with me. Same idea, which is basically a link to my calendar, which has also a discovery form you fill out. And then we set up a time to talk, and usually over Zoom, so a conversation, see where you are, see where you want to go, and we can go from there. Also on my site there's a few other things. My site is, again, still about to be released. There's just a few final tweaks going on. It's like perpetual polishing of the apple, so to speak. Anyway, my site will be up and launch the new version. But in the meantime, there are places on my site you can go, which is my book, online courses, and also there's a direct link to my quiz. I have a quiz called the Relationship Readiness Assessment, which has been out for a while now. Quite a lot of people have been using it, which is great. It's a way to navigate where you are and where you want to go, and it gives you some percentages of like what's your readiness for your relationship. What do you need to work on? Where are you strong? What do you need help with? That sort of thing. So you go to barryselby.com/quiz. You can check it out there, and that will give you some guidance and also give you opportunities to reach out to me again for a conversation. Besides that, you can email me at barry@barryselby.com. And if you want to find me on social media, all my social media is my name, Barry Selby, except for Instagram. So on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Pinterest, and of course on YouTube, it's Barry Selby. And on Instagram and Threads, it's the real Barry Selby. I think it covers everything.
I think it does.
Yes.
So we are always here every Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. And we'd love for you to watch live. And if you submit a comment or a question, we'll be happy to answer it while we're chatting with each other. You can also watch our replays on Roku and Apple TV.
It's also on YouTube and Facebook as well.
And YouTube, yes. And you can take us with you.
Absolutely, on that podcast, because we actually now have our videos put onto audio, which is on podcast. So you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, on Amazon, wherever there are podcasts recorded. You can find us there, and our podcasts get uploaded pretty quickly. So I think we're about 1 week behind right now. So if you want to get a binge listen to our podcast when you're out going to the gym or going driving or you're out hiking or you're going shopping, you can listen to every one of our shows, which keep you busy for months.
Yes, you get so much information, and we'd love it if you'd like and subscribe and share it with people in your life that are having some challenges in their dating and relationship part of their life.
Absolutely. Great.
And so we will be back next week with another interesting subject. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye.